Nahum, welcome to the program.
Great, thank you for having me.
I've really been excited to have you on the program because you are doing something with synthetic endothelium, which is really quite clever given things like phaco wound burn and all that. But I won't tell the audience too much. You let us know a little bit about your product and why it's innovative.
Great, so it is disruptive technology because we show to ophthalmology actually that the endothelium can be replaced with a synthetic implant that till EyeYon came to the world, everybody thought that the only way, and still today, the only way to cure the endothelium, which our body can never regenerate. So this is one of the few layers that our body can never regenerate. So we born with amount of cells in our endothelium and we go away with whatever left out of it.
Yeah.
So we proved to the world that that can be replaced with a synthetic passive endothelium. It was not easy to convince. There are so many physicians and industry leaders that I met during my journey, during our journey, that said that will never work.
Yeah.
But now they are, part of them are even, sitting on our scientific advisory board, because we have today human data for long term to show that you can really cure cornea with a synthetic implant and bring vision again.
So I've got to ask, of course, the natural lens is now replaced all over the world in cataract surgery by a synthetic IOL. And that's a fair practice. Is it fair to say that the endothelium could be on that level where you could have synthetic endothelium and that's just a kind of a normal thing?
You just pin it. I mean, just on the spot, because just imagine that we would, Sir Radley would not invent the first IOL, or, would not this issue with the, with the airplane glass entered to the eye and all that famous story wouldn't happen. You would need today to take the intraocular lens from a deceased individual, securing it by a special refrigerator and then implanting it. That sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
But this is how we see endothelial transplant today from our small point. So yes, I mean, and that's the reaction we see from physicians. They say, wow, if DMEC or DSEC would look like that in few years, that would be amazing. If I can have, on my shelf, endoarts that would be ready for implantation, sterile, no disease transfer, can be easily implanted. That's the level of innovation we hope to bring to endothelium, a replacement to DMEC, to DSEC, to the overall so needy corneal blindness industry. Yes, that's what we plan to do, and this is how we see the future.
So take me through, how does your product actually work in the eye and what procedures needed to implant it?
So what we found actually, and that's where the idea came from, that in cases where there is retinal detachment, and that's, I have to go ahead to the physician who came up with the idea, Professor Ari Markovich and Dr. Ofer Dafna.
Yeah.
So they've seen that in retinal detachment, where silicone oil is being injected to the eye, sometimes this silicone oil is migrated to the backside of the cornea. So then you have a cornea which is blocked from the inside and no endothelium because it's easily damaged, and the cornea stayed clear. So that's where the idea came from. That maybe we do not need to mimic the endothelium as it is, but actually taking the mechanism of only acting as a barrier to fluid. So our cornea is like a sponge in a way. Yeah. Lots of collagen type 4 matrix, which have a very good design of a matrix that gives the cornea clarity. Right. And once the endothelium is damaged, so fluids go through from the anterior chamber to the cornea and make the cornea blurred. And of course, patients suffer from radical decrease in vision, severe pain, and in severe cases, even scarring of the corneal tissue. So what we are doing is actually entering from a small incision and putting the implant inside, attaching it to the posterior part of the cornea, and by that creating a barrier to fluids, bringing back the cornea to a normal level of hydration, which is so important for that clarity of the cornea. So it's actually mimicking DMEC and DSEC, which is a worldwide trend presented by, of course, Garrett Mellis. And we are riding on that trend because no one is replacing the whole cornea today if only the endothelium is damaged. So we are suggesting synthetic endothelium to replace future DMEC and DSEC to bring and restore vision again.
You know, historically, things like wound burn during phacoemulsification have been a serious concern among physicians, and even, you know, companies that have different phaco devices have talked about, you know, heat and things like that at the phaco tip to prevent wound burn. But I wonder with a product like yours, whether, you know, that essentially eliminates this problem, at least in the future.
Yeah, so actually our patients population includes those patients that came from an unsuccessful cataract operation, or even a successful cataract operation on a Fuchs dystrophy patient that eventually always associated with some level of endothelial cell loss. But not only phaco and cataract, also, you know, glaucoma shunts, the MIGS, some of them even banned only due to that reason for endothelial cell loss, banned by the FDA. You know, surgical procedure is one of the leading reasons for endothelial loss, but not only, also aging and even genetic defects. So, and overall, again, we are losing endothelial cells all the time. So as population age grow, we lost endothelial cells. And yes, that's exactly why a synthetic implant like the EndoArt can bring back the hemostasis and protect the cornea again, because the main function of the endothelium is to protect the cornea. And here I have to have a small sentence about that, about the mechanism of action. So the endothelium is a functional layer, so it allows some fluids to enter the cornea, and it has active pumps to take some of the fluids out.
Right.
So, and we are not mimicking that exactly. What we were able to prove, again, in humans for long term, that even if you are not mimicking that identically, and you're just putting a passive barrier on part of the cornea, not all of it, but on the central part of the cornea, you can bring back the cornea to a normal level of clarity and thickness now for the long terms in humans.
Do you happen to know, by the way, I mean, I'm curious because I don't know, I just haven't really thought about this for a while, but why is it that the endothelium doesn't reproduce like other cells?
I mean, that's you need to ask the person above me. Yes, I mean, eventually, you know, if we look on you know, on health in general, we are not supposed to live beyond 60. You can ask the same question: why our intraocular lens, you know, become opaque within time?
Yeah.
So that's how our body is built. And there are not many layers or many human tissue that our body does not regenerate. Ovaries of female, of course, is also another example that they are not reproducing. But yes, that's one of the few layers, and that's you know, that's not me to answer.
Okay, fair enough. Well, you've invented enough for today, so we're happy with that. Nahum, I want to thank you so much for joining our program to teach us a little bit more about something that could replace endothelium in a synthetic way someday, maybe today. So thanks so much for joining, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.